Michael said he can't do it.
I think, I don't think Michael can do it yet. He might join us halfway in. And yeah, everybody else seems...
Aside from like Missy.
Yeah, and I think Missy's been pretty busy lately. James has been busy.
Sus. Very sus. They're all playing a game or something?
I have no idea.
Oh.
That would be funny though.
Yeah. All right, I'm making a concerted effort to try to stop saying as much because I've noticed like 90% of me is editing out my ums. I'm terrible at it.
It's just a placeholder that is pretty commonly used.
Pause, think about what you're going to say, and then say it in short bursts, and then pause again.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes, or if I just throw that all out the window and which is probably more likely.
Right.
All right, 32 days, 24 all-stars, 1 co-host, and 1 podcast. This is your host, Poody, and today we're joined by Lara Alvarez, a.k.a. Loveita.
Hola.
And myself, Jonathan LaPaglia. We will be going over the first... Well, this was from the Kylie boot, spoiler, to Tegan's boots. Only 2 boots since we last spoke, I believe. But there are some big events this weekend that we need to talk about. So
yeah, and they were busy boots too.
Yeah, I'll say the Kylie boot was really the first blind side of the merge, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was the first big moment where everyone decided on a plan that maybe not everyone else was in on.
Yeah, I mean, that was a 6-5 vote, really split. I think there was some suspicion that something might be happening, but everybody was just hoping they could stick to what they were being told, and then Kylie left, and Matt, David, and Gerard were like, well, it wasn't me, so we had to get rid of her at some point.
We spoke about it in the last podcast a little bit, but basically, going into this tribal council, the original alliance had made a move or tried to make a move, which resulted in a Tegan boot, but it was very close. Tessa, that's right. Sorry. A Tessa boot. Right, yeah. Very similar names. And both very Australian names. The alliances were formed and Tessa got the boot. We spoke about that before this tribal council. The thing that was strange was that the underdog alliance going up against the bananas seemed to resign themselves to losing because they had lost that vote with Tessa, even though it was like 6-5. So very close. I don't know why they were so defeatist about it, because this round everyone seemed to jump on a Kylie vote, or at least the majority. Yeah,
and Michelle had been teasing earlier in the previous round that she'd be willing to go against Kylie sooner rather than later. She just didn't want to go against her group of 7 quite yet. But yeah, so both Michelle and Daisy and Tegan, they all kind of felt on the bottom of their little group and they wanted to do something. Daisy jumped quicker and that didn't work, but Michelle and Tegan both waited, and in Michelle's case it seems to have worked out pretty well for the time being.
Yeah, I think really Michelle and Tegan were kind of I think crucial in this plan, but certainly I think everyone had just been waiting to kind of shake things up.
Mm-hmm.
And Kylie, unfortunately for Kylie, but fortunately for viewers, she was like the figurehead of that group because she was very unwavering, very much told everyone where her loyalties lie and tried to get people to vote with them, but not in the best pitch, I don't think. So really, she kind of drew a line in the sand that they would have been dumb to ignore, and they weren't. So they took advantage of that, finally flipped the tables, and our beloved Kylie got the boot. Do you think, I mean, obviously there are things that Kylie could have done differently to prevent this. What do you think is her biggest flaw?
I think, it's a good question, because she kind of fell into the trap where everybody was like, well, everybody's Kylie's best friend, and Kylie is running everything. She kind of became a little too transparent. Because it's Tegan and Michelle were the relationship she really needed to keep. And I think that they could tell that she had loyalties to other people before she had loyalties to them.
Right.
And I don't think she nurtured those relationships enough.
I think Susie's biggest problem, Kylie's biggest problem, I think is the common thread is that she is extremely loyal to a select few.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that she doesn't make deals outside of that. So when people want to make a move against it, they can't work with her because she's made it abundantly clear she's not turning on them. I think what she should do if she plays again is consider talking to other people and entertaining their ideas. You don't have to commit, you don't have to lie, but be open to talking with them about their ideas so that if they come up with a plan to vote out your people, they feel comfortable coming to you with that idea. And then from there, you can reject it and stay loyal, but at least you have that option. I don't think she's giving other people the option to come to her. She's just becoming so first of all, she's threatening because she's so well connected, but then on top of that, she almost makes it impossible for people to want to work with her. Whereas I think someone like a Michelle or even a Tegan, who are very threatening and social, at least have spoken to everyone and given everyone the opportunity to play with them.
Yeah, I mean, David's repaired his relationships with both Sharn and Daisy as another example.
I mean, it's hard because I know Susie wants to be loyal, and I think that that's great. I don't think you have to betray people to do well. I've seen people win, go the distance, being completely loyal. I think where she screws up is that she doesn't want to pretend like she might flip on the people that she's loyal to, right?
Yeah, she's a little too immovable.
Right, and she's too honest, which is not a good thing in the game of Stranded. You really want to, you don't have to be dishonest, but withholding some of that information. You don't have to tell people that you're never moving against these poor people, that you're tightly aligned with these people. You can just let them come to you with stuff and withhold, I think, is the key.
Yeah, and I think you're right that nobody's going to feel comfortable coming to her with their own plan because it's like, it's Kylie's plan. Kylie's got the plans, and it's up to you to be an ally of hers and listen to them. It's a little bit harder, I think, for people to feel comfortable going to her with a plan about shaking things up, about bettering their own position in the game. And I think they just don't see her. They see her as an obstacle rather than somebody they can use as a tool in their plans.
Yeah, for sure. I think that this early merge, like most early merges, the early big threats go out one by one. And I think that's been the case. We see that again after Kylie's boot with Tegan. I think Tegan was just viewed as too powerful of a player socially and strategically.
People saw her as the force in Kylie's vote. And so she was the next big name. Get rid of her next.
It's so interesting because the biggest reason people wanted to take out Kylie, I think, is because she was too loyal to this other group. Meanwhile, Tegan betrays that group, votes out Kylie, and then they decide that Tegan's too big of a threat. So kind of a lose-lose.
And that vote was really strange, too, because
super strange.
It ended up being a unanimous vote, 9-1, but it was all whispers, all tribal, and a few people didn't put their votes in until like the last second. I seriously thought it could have been a tie vote halfway through tribal.
Can we talk about this tribal? I had forgotten about this, how not straightforward it was because it was unanimous. We have to talk about Sharn during this tribal council. I think proving all-star legend icon status with this tribal council. I think she's the sole reason that vote was a slam dunk. She was just telling people how to vote, what the vote was going to be, not wavering at all. And I think that that's so important. People listening, that is a key strategy for these whisper councils. I think people are panicking. They see all these whispers. They don't know if things are changing. People are telling them different names. If you have someone who is calm, confident, and saying, this is the boot, ignore all of that, it's going to be this person, you more likely will follow that than all the panic and whispering.
Yeah, whispering for 20 minutes. Oh, what should we do? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I'm so confused. Isn't going to get anybody anywhere. So that's the time where you should be decisive, put your foot down, and say, this is how I'm going to vote. And people will generally follow along more than not. And Sharn did this on both sides because the votes that were being discussed before were Matt's name had come up kind of on one side, and Ben's name had kind of come up on the other side. And Sharn especially, other people kind of helped with this, but used both of those names as a fear tactic to get everybody to just pile on Tegan instead.
Right. It's interesting. I often refer to Rudy as a villain. He's known as King Rudy. I think this is proving why. He definitely has a villainous streak to him. It's more of like a quiet confidence and ballsiness that he's very, he's not under the radar, but he's very unassuming, right? Mm-hmm. It's when he goes for a plan, it's very aggressive, which you're not expecting because he's so reserved the rest of the time. It's almost like he's waiting for the moment. And It's super effective. I mean, I don't think anyone has or had Sharn on their radar. I'm sure now they do. But before that council, they were kind of just looking to her as an extra vote, and she decided that vote entirely. I'm convinced of that. I mean, I know it was a lot of parts and a lot of targets, but really, a lot of people were looking, who do we vote for? Who do we vote for? And she was a big force in getting rid of Tegan.
And she got away with it scot-free. I mean, Tegan thought, oh, well, Ben brought up my name, so that's why I started going after him.
Yeah, as this game goes on more and more, I'm seeing even more similarities between Michelle and Sharn, and I'm also seeing them both duke it out. I think that this game could very well come down to those two duking it out in the end.
I think that's very possible. I think Michelle put a couple charts up recently where I think a lot of these players are still assuming a final 3, by the way. That's all they've been talking about, even though your question in the challenge very clearly said final 2 go, but whatever.
And no Australian survivor has had a final 3, and Austranded one did not have one, but
Michelle was talking about going to the end with Sharn and Daisy. So
I saw that, which is what made me think about it. And we had been talking about a little bit where Michelle is kind of the new Rudy, in a sense, where he's a little more socially, Michelle is a little more socially adept than Sharn is. There's certainly a different game, but they're very similar in visibility, aggressiveness, villainy, I guess. Yeah. Very similar players, very good players, and both have been known to come up just short. So I'm super interested in that duo going forward. This group has now been whittled down to extreme competitors. I mean, everyone outside of maybe Baden and maybe Gerard, who I think is still playing well, are extreme threats to win, like some of our best players. So I don't know how this is going to end. It's going to be a fight to the finish, though, for sure.
The night's going to be insane. That's for sure. Speaking of, other things that happened this weekend, Ben got the public idol. So Ben has a public idol.
Lots of powers in play now with auctions going off. Some were played. I think Sarah played her Hidden Meaning the Idol. Is that right?
Yes. Sarah played her idol during Tegan's boot.
Right. And then Kylie had played her Steal a Vote the round before she left. So the advantages left. Let's go over this. So it's a lot. Another idol was hidden, which Michelle found.
Yes.
So Michelle
has a hidden idol. I don't think anybody knows about that.
Ben bought a public idol, which everyone knows about, obviously. So those are the 2 idols in the game. Sharn recently purchased the final item that was not won in auction. So she has the power to leave Tribal Council or make someone else leave Tribal Council where they'd be safe, but they won't be able to vote.
And I think she's told Michelle about that, David about that, and David told Matt.
And there's one more item. What am I missing? Oh,
is there another?
The newbie one, but that doesn't count.
Oh.
It was not as effective as I thought it would be.
And then we've got 2 tribal councils coming up tonight.
Yes. So over the weekend, they were playing the Tower Stack Challenge, which is such a cruel challenge, but I still love it.
They all messed up, too. The funniest quote of the day so far with that is Michelle saying, okay, well, I was trash at that Build a Tower Challenge. I think I should end with 63. And she is almost double anybody else.
Yeah, she's going to paint a target on herself after that, for sure.
But she got that tower within the last 13 minutes. She just went through. Everybody messed up. Yeah, everybody else messed up. A lot of people messed up within the last 5-10 minutes. A couple people played it safe. Gerard literally only posted 3 blocks, so he didn't try. But so Michelle's going to have at least one of the immunities. Baden was doing the challenge during this podcast, so I don't know how he ended up and how that'll shake up. But I think that means Michelle is probably going to play her idol tonight too, to just make sure she's safe through both.
I see. Okay, so she wants to guarantee herself a final 7.
I think she might do that. She might not. We'll see. Because that idol is good till final 6, and I think she should be safe. But
I think she should not do that. I don't know. I guess if you're a challenge
I
beast,
see that, yeah, and I see the paranoia, like, okay, well, I just won another challenge, and it's good to just be like, okay, well, this is a crazy night. Let's just wipe my hands of it. I'm safe both rounds. Sweet.
Yeah,
I definitely see that appeal.
I don't know. I guess the move.
But I think that could make her a huge target moving forward for sure.
It's strange because you could make the argument that without a lot of time to plan, if someone assumes you might be playing the immunity the first round, you could not play it and then hope nobody piles a vote on you and save it for the next round. You could make the argument that if you do that, everyone then takes that opportunity before you get safety in the next council, right?
Right.
You could also bluff that you have some kind of advantage that would keep you safe anyway, and that's why you're not playing. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. It's kind of uncharted territory. It's not something that's very common. It's not something we've done in Stranded very often. The only other time was with you guys in Victory.
And I thought I had planned that so perfectly.
Yes, you did not. Because you're undoing.
Right.
And with so many advantages, I don't know that I would. It's going to be a crazy night. And heading into the finals is going to be crazy. We have a lot of game left to play and a lot of really good people. I'm thinking I would always assume the bigger players go sooner rather than later, but who knows? It could be an easy pile. I think
any of these players left have the opportunity to show themselves as a big player. I think they've all got that potential. And so really...
Well, except for Baden.
Maybe not Baden.
Yeah.
Maybe not Baden.
I mean, Baden's going to be... It'll be interesting because Baden's definitely going to be singled out as a final 3 GOAT, even though it's a final 2.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, though. I think some people... I mean, I think Daisy just posted, like, is she crazy for thinking about bringing Baden to the end? Like, she's, like, actually worried she would lose to Baden. So, I don't know. I think there's ways that... I don't know that I have the most faith in Baden in a final tribal council, knowing what we know about him. I think he could easily lose a game for himself there. I hope he wouldn't. Oh my god!
Of course he loses in a final 2. Come on. Anyone beats Baden in the final 2. And I'm hoping the only silver lining in that, because it's going to be a slam dunk, I think, is that I'm hoping Baden does a lot of voice modulation in that final tribal council
to answer all the questions.
Because it would be iconic. Baden is iconic already in this season.
Baden is iconic, definitely. So glad we had him back.
Let's talk about some of these people that have a lot of things going on. So what's going on with the bananas now that Kylie is gone? Are Sarah, David, and Matt strong together?
Well, it would be Matt, David, and Gerard. So I think that gives you a little indication of how strong the remaining bananas are. I think Matt and David are very strong together.
I love those two together. I hope they both make it like to the final 5 or so, because they're going to be super entertaining.
That would be great. Yeah, they're both fantastic players. I think they use information really well with each other. It's really great to watch. Gerard, I don't know where he's super at. He seems, I mean, he did a video confessional. He seems kind of very willing to just kind of go with the flow. I'm a little worried about him in terms of endgame with that, if he can get there. I know a couple people might be looking at targeting him soon. I think Daisy wants him out. But
he's always had this problem. He doesn't pull the trigger. So that makes people not want to go with him. He just becomes an easy boot that the consensus can come to towards the end of the game, because he's dangerous enough to where you can't trust him, but not solid enough to where you want to keep him around. And I
think losing Tegan really hurt his plans too.
I could see Gerard going tonight.
It could happen. It could easily happen.
Maybe not the first council, but I would think for the second council, he could be in danger, which is not something I had thought about before we spoke, actually. But I think this is around the time where he normally goes home, and I mean, it's not looking good for his game.
I think Sarah's doing okay. I don't think she goes tonight. I mean, it's hard. 2 people going tonight. a lot of things could happen, but I think she's done pretty well in kind of getting attention off of herself since being like the attempted alternate vote when Tessa left, since playing an idol that didn't do anything. Like, I don't think that many people are looking at her right now. I think they're looking at people like Matt. I think they're looking at Gerard. I think they might still be looking at Ben, even Baden. People could be looking at. I don't think they're looking at Sarah.
Who are the biggest threats? Like, who is everyone targeting tonight?
I don't know. I've been trying to keep up with a little bit on chat. I haven't been super active this weekend. I did see Matt's name pop up a couple of times. I know Daisy wants Gerard out. Let me check Michelle's confessional. Michelle would be fine with either Baden and Ben going or David and Matt going. She's playing super flexible. She's really trying to play the middle right now.
So many middle players.
Right now, she kind of sees the game as like her, Gerard, and Sharn, and then a group of Daisy, Baden, and Ben, and a group of Sarah, Matt, and David. So it's very possible we see one from a couple of those trios leave, but I don't think it goes back to back.
My gut says that Daisy's in trouble tonight. It's such a weird group left. I mean, everyone is strong.
It really is.
And there's no after Kylie and Tegan boots, which were both kind of random. It's so up in the air. I think Ben and Daisy are probably most in danger tonight if I had to go with my gut, but I don't know.
I'm worried about Matt too.
Matt's a big threat. He's been kind of on the outs ever since Kylie's boot, and he's been too vocal about it. I think he should have just chilled out, and he would have been fine, but he's been like very vocal about being on the outs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what to make of that. I think endgame, though, I still see Sarah in the final 5 and stepping up to be a huge threat. I see Michelle and Sharn in the endgame.
Mm-hmm. I think those are the 3 people I would say are not leaving tonight for certain. Would be Michelle, Sarah, and Sharn. I don't think they would leave tonight. I think David is maybe the next safest.
Yeah, I see those 4 in the finals. That's who I would be eyeing. And I think Matt is going to either go tonight or be like a final 5-ish, too big of a threat boot, outsider boot.
I see it.
Ben, I think, is toast. I think Ben's going home tonight. I think of the people left, he's someone that everyone's been targeting, and he's not in a super solid group, so I think Ben's in trouble tonight. And Daisy has been too vocal and crazy, so I think they could use tonight as an easy way to get rid of her. There's a lot of ways it can go, but I think those two are...
it's really up in the air. I think even if they get a plan together for one of these, if for one vote, I don't think they've got it for 2, because I think there's a couple of people who will want to work with different people in each vote.
There's going to be a lot of whispering tonight, that is for sure.
So it should be fun.
I think what I'm going to do is give them like a little bit long, or at least 30-minute voting windows for both, for sure. Maybe even a little bit longer. But yeah, it's going to be a wild night. So we got a double tonight, and then we're going to be at final 7.
Yep.
And quickly, this is the last week of the game, so we're quickly going to be down to the finals. We've got a very strong group left. I still think winner picks. I think we mentioned a Michelle Sharn showdown. I think that's very possible for the finals. I also wouldn't count out Sarah or David, both underdog threats from Indonesia that are proven competitors. There's a lot of ways this can go, but those are the 4 I think have the most longevity and also the most ability to win at this point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Certainly anything can happen. It's a wild group.
Yeah, tomorrow it'll be like everything we just said will be completely invalidated for sure.
Right, yeah. Sharn and Michelle go tonight, and
somehow.
Right, and like Baden is his biggest threat to win or something. Yeah. With these live double tribals, it's anyone's game. All right, I think we've exhausted the last 2 votes. I think there will be a lot more to talk about in our next podcast, which will be right before a final. So that will be exciting. I think we'll be finishing the season strong. What do you think about the season so far overall before we go out?
I think it's been great. I mean, we talked about it having that slow burn in the pre-merge, but how that normally sets up for a really good post-merge game. And I think we're seeing that. I think the Tessa, Kylie, Tegan boots, all of those were very interesting live tribals to attend and to watch as a viewer. The messaging just jumped
Right.
up. If you look at the average message count, we went from like averaging like 3,000 a day to like 8,000 messages like 3 days in a row. So,
Yeah. I think usually a season is big boots go early in the merge, and then it's kind of, you know.
I think a lot of this cast has been waiting to play hard
Right.
and
I
to
think it's
really
the
get
opposite.
into it. Yeah.
I think this time each boot is getting more and more interested, which is usually not the case.
Yeah,
And more
I mean, because I
volatile.
can say honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen tonight, and I think I'm going to be happy no matter what happens because it's going to be entertaining.
That's the crazy thing is, you know, if we were talking about a newbie cast, these people would all be probably under the radar players that might not, we wouldn't say we're the best players of all time. These people are the best players of all time. They're just hiding it very well from one another.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. I'm very excited to see how this finishes out. I hope the best for them. I hope that they all play as hard as they can. They have been so far. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I think that's just about going to do it, though. We've exhausted all the conversation we can have. We've got a lot of advantages, a lot of gameplay left. I think it's going to be a crazy week.
It'll be fun. Good season
All right,
so far. Gonna keep going.
All right, I think that's going to do it. So with that, I look forward to tonight. And this is Poody out.